my favorite sport. It's been a big part of my life. So I'm going to talk to you about wrestling. This is this picture here is actually me entering at the. I'm just kidding. In fact, that is not real wrestling at all. So I'm going to talk to you about three main things here. I'm going to talk to you about what the sport is, give you a little bit like the rules and the kind of unwritten rules and stuff like that to it. And then I'm going to tell you a couple of my own success stories with it that have made me love the sport so much. And if I have time, which I probably won't, I'll tell you a really, really funny story that happened that I wouldn't tell to most people. But so this is the ring I grew up training in. That's also a joke. We do not have ropes and turnbuckles, and there's no stuff like that. We actually wrestle on this. This is the actual exact same kind of mat that we had at my school. So basically, in a wrestling match, what would happen is there would be one person designated as the blue, and the other would be red. And we would start within this circle here, and facing each other. The ref would blow the whistle, and that's how we start. Now I'll go to next here to the rules here. Number one, now the rules have changed quite a bit over the last, my 4 years of wrestling, they changed twice. So they might have changed again, I'm not sure, but this is the last set of rules that I got used to wrestling with. So it was 2 3-minute rounds, which is 6 minutes in total. 6 minutes of wrestling is the most tiring thing I've ever done in my life. I've played full games of hockey, football. Wrestling has knocked me out more than anything else in the sport. Now, to win the match, at any point in time, if you have 10 points more than your opponent, that's the match right there. So if I have 10 points, my opponent has 0, I win. If I have 11, he has 1, I win. Simple as that. Now you're asking, how do you earn points? Very simple. You can earn 1 point by getting back control on your opponent, which basically means you're hugging them from behind. If you're doing that, there's a lot of different things you can do. If they're standing, you can take them down, you can throw them over your head, you can, if they're on the ground, you can turn them. If you want to get 2 points, there's a couple things you can do. You can take them down straight to their stomach, or you can get what's called exposure, which means if they're on their stomach already and you turn them so their shoulders are almost facing the mat, they go past the 90-degree angle here, that's called exposure, that's another 2 points. You can also roll them over to get exposure completely, which is something else that I use quite a bit with a move called a gut wrench, but I'm not going to go over moves because I could be here for years. You could go to get 3 points by throwing someone. Now, a throw is considered when someone's feet are literally above their head. So throws usually are pretty entertaining to watch. I like watching them. I like seeing people get thrown. And it's kind of funny because there will be a gym full of about 6 mats, and there will be people yelling and screaming. All of a sudden, you'll just hear a boom, and everyone will look over and know that guy just got thrown on his head. That was cool. You can also take them straight down to their back, which is the same as a 2-point takedown, but instead they land on their back, not their stomach, and you get control of them quickly. That's really good, 3 points. You can take them down outside of the ring. So it's the same as a 2-point takedown, but you actually push them out of the ring as you're doing that. And before the rule changes, you used to get a point just for pushing them out of the ring to begin with, but they took that out because there was too much stuff. It was like a desperation move, and they wanted to take that out and actually have some actual wrestling in it. So they switched that up. That was one rule I wasn't crazy about to start with, and then they changed it and it worked, and I was pretty happy with it. And finally, you can get a 4-point throw by throwing them straight out of the ring. Same principle as the taking them down outside the ring. Now, there was a golden stitch when it came to wrestling, actually, because getting 10 points is pretty difficult, right? So now, this also has to go with the whole exposure thing, right? Why would you want to turn them so their shoulders are almost facing the mat? That's because in wrestling, just like in WWE, we have pinfall or a pin. Now, it's not the same as wrestling. There's no ref getting on the ground, smacking them out. 1, 2, 3. That doesn't happen. It's just as soon as your shoulders touch, basically, you're done. And that some refs, it actually depends on the ref who's calling your match, because some refs are really, really good about that. You know, but some, like, you could be rolling over to get out of it, and the ref will be like, nope, that's it, that's done. And they're the worst kind of ref, and I don't like those people. And that. So for moves you can do, there's no like striking or kicking or any of that stuff. Like you're not going to see any sweet chin musics. You're not going to see any RKOs out of nowhere. That's not real moves. Those don't happen. What you will see is stuff like a hip toss, which the beautiful Ronda Rousey is explaining for us very well right here. You'll see a double leg takedown, which this guy, I don't know his name, but he looks like he's doing it pretty good. You'll also see the fireman's carry. That's a fun one. I like doing that one. That makes people scared. So there's a lot of range of moves you can do, a lot of ways to take people down. And for me, that all started with this guy right here. I wrestled for Guerrilla Factory Wrestling. That's what we called ourselves for our club name. We were also MHS, win, pin, or die. That was always our saying. And this right here is my wrestling coach. This is me and him at my last tournament. You can see why he's almost crying. His name is Chris Kent, and he is one of the best people I've had in my life so far. He's an awesome, awesome coach. Taught me a lot of really good lessons. Because of him now in wrestling, my neck is very strong because that's basically your third hand in wrestling. And I can basically sprint on my knees now, which is a really weird thing, but it's kind of entertaining. Because of him, he was in my corner for a good 6 years of my life, so he's a really good friend of mine. He wasn't a teacher to me, he was a friend. I'm really proud of him because he just lost 75 pounds over the last couple months, so I'm really proud of him. Now, he was in my corner for the next 2 months of my life that I'm really proud to share. This one here, this is an actual picture of me in my singlet. You can see I have an amazing butt. This was 2 years ago in a tournament in Swift Current. It was a club tournament, so the rules were a little bit different. I'll tell you a bit of a story behind this. This was the only match I wrestled all day, and I really didn't like this kid because he was walking around with that cocky attitude, telling people, "Oh, I've been bodybuilding," and he had all this bodybuilding gear on. Which, if you're a wrestler, oh, I hate those people so much because they're just like, "Oh, look at me, I'm so strong." And then so I was like, as soon as I learned this kid was in my weight class, I was ready to just beat him down. And so the match comes, I get on the mat. And apparently my mom was actually sitting next to this guy's dad, and it was perfect because mom's videotaping it, and I can actually hear this guy talking. So this what happened? Bell goes, or buzzer goes. I shoot in for my double leg takedown. That was the same thing that black guy was doing earlier in here, and I get stuffed right away. So I'm flat on my stomach, and I go, "Oh shit, I'm about to lose." And it kind of just kicked into gear, and I walked on my knees, pulled this guy in, and I ended up lifting up like that. Now, as I was on the ground, in the video of this guy, you can hear him saying, "Come on, son, he's not that strong." And then you can see, like, I start slowly creeping up, and then I get him up on my shoulders, and you just hear him go, "Okay, maybe he is." And that was one of the greatest things for me ever. And then this actually doesn't do it justice. I actually set him down pretty lightly, which I wish I wouldn't have, because it was in club. I could have dropped him on his head, and if it was high school, I couldn't have, but I should have. And so that resulted in a pin in about 2 seconds. It was about a 20-second match out of the 6 minutes, which was awesome. That's one of the proudest moments of my life right there, just because I kind of put someone in their place. And they were all, after I beat them, they were no longer cocky. They were this nice guy, like, "Oh, that was actually, you were really good at this, like, holy crap." And I was like, "Okay, you weren't singing the same tune very long ago." This is the other one. Really proud of. That's an unflattering picture of me at all. But it was my profile picture for probably 2 years because I was really proud of this. This one I'm probably going to have to cut short because I only have a minute left. But this was in grade 9. It started at my second tournament. This kid here, his name is Taylor Wandler, another kid I can't stand. Not for any good reason, it's because he is the first kid who ever beat me. I was undefeated until I got to him. I could not stand him because of it. I was like etching his name in walls, like, I'm going to kill this kid. And what happened is it ended up, this is at regionals, this was for a spot at provincials, and during weigh-ins, I was standing next to him, and I literally said to him, "I guess I owe you one now, don't I?" Which was basically saying, "I'm going to beat you," which was very unlike me at the time because I was not cocky at all back then. And I ended up losing my first match in the tournament, which put me against him for a spot at provincials. And first round, he kicked the crap out of me, but this was back in the day. It was 3 rounds, not 2. I won't explain that because it's really confusing. But it was 3 rounds, and it was a best of 3 rounds or a pin. And he kicked the crap out of me first round, and in between my coach Chris, he kind of smacked me around, got my head in gear. Second round, I really took it to him, and then the third round, I'm almost done. Third round, I actually was up 5 points on him, which is really good back in the time, and I ended up right here. Actually, I ended up turning him over, and I pinned him, and that was one of the greatest moments for me because I took the first person who ever beat me and made me feel like crap about myself because I didn't wrestle very well the first time I did it. I didn't have my head in it. And I took that and it made me stronger. And that's what I loved about this and the sport so much. That's all I got, you guys. Thank you.